Even the mayor said that, you know, that the thieves hang out there and they use false papers to gain entry. The religious backlash from this, none of the churches in the city would allow them to hold memorial services for any of the members of this tragedy. William Richardson, which was a closeted rector for the Episcopalian Church, offered his church for a small service. In doing so, he got reprimanded by the Episcopalian bishop. They also received over 100 angry phone calls from angry citizens, and Reverend Richardson's mailbox was overflowing with hate mail. Two ministers finally came forward and allowed for services to be held in their church. Over 250 people did attend these services. The worst part of this, the most appalling aspect of this, is there was 4 people that were never claimed. 3 of them were never identified. Their families refused to come forward and identify them and claim them. The members of the MCC church that they belonged to tried to get the city to release the bodies to them to allow them to be buried. The city refused. Some unknown people came forward and gave donations so that they could be buried. Unfortunately, all of them were buried in a mass grave at Holt Cemetery in New Orleans with no marker. And after 30 years, they finally raised the funds to put a plaque outside of the location with the names of all the victims from the incident. On the 40th anniversary, the mayor of New Orleans finally acknowledged this incident and issued the certificate of recognition to the fire at the upstairs lounge. I also want to talk about Brandon Teena, Matthew Shepard, and Barry Winchell. A lot of the younger generations do not know who they are, and these are the people that set the stage for what has become the fight to make it more public as far as the issues the LGBT community go through. Brandon Teena and 2 others was murdered on the night of December 31st, 1993 in Humboldt, Nebraska. A week prior to this, 2 men, John Lauder and Tom Neeson, had found out that Brandon was actually female. They had raped and beaten her and threatened her with murder if she went to the authorities who informed them of what they had done. Brandon escaped and went to his girlfriend's house. This is Brandon and Lana Tinsdale. Brandon went to the hospital and had a rape kit done, but somehow it got lost, and surprise, surprise. The sheriff felt that he didn't feel there was enough evidence to make an arrest. So the 2 remained free. Brandon and 2 friends, it was actually Lisa Lambert and another friend that was tracked down at this farmhouse in Humboldt where they were murdered. And those are the 2 gentlemen that are actually in prison for Brandon's murder at this time. And this is just some more images of Brandon. Matthew Shepard, it's been 15 years since this happened. He met his attackers at the Fireside Lounge in Laramie, Wyoming on October 6, 1998. He was a 21-year-old college student. These are the 2 gentlemen that he had befriended in the bar, McKinney and Henderson. They pretended to be gay to lure Matthew into their truck. Matthew was taken to an isolated location where he was beaten severely and tied to a fence to left him to die. Melissa Etheridge actually wrote Scarecrow for Matthew Shepard. A cyclist found his body 18 hours later. He was still alive, but in a coma. He had suffered multiple skull fractures and damage to his brain. He died on October 12, 1998, without ever regaining consciousness. This is PFC Barry Winchell, I actually knew him. The movie The Soldier's Girl was actually based on his story. And the bar that it was shot at was a bar called The Connection in Nashville, Tennessee. I actually worked there for a time and worked there at the time he was coming there. Some of him and his buddies would come down just to hang out because they tried some of the other bars, found it was not as exciting. And they started hanging out there, and he met Calpurnia Adams, which was one of the female performers that was actually in the process of becoming full female. On July 4th, 1999, Calvin Glover and Barry Winchell's barracks mate, Fisher, had all been drinking heavily together. Glover and Winchell got into a fight, and Winchell won. Because of this fact, Fisher kept egging him on all day, saying, "You got beat by a fucking faggot." In the early morning hours of July 5th, Glover attacked Winchell after hours of drinking and being egged on by Fisher. Winchell was actually having to sleep on a cot outside of his barracks room because Fisher would not allow him to keep the dog that he was actually responsible for in the barracks. So while he slept, Glover beat him with a baseball bat. He was taken to the hospital, his parents were contacted, and they made the decision on July 6th to have him removed from life support. Today, Calpurnia Adams is a full-fledged woman, and she actually does speaking engagements around the country about this incident and about Barry and what she went through with him and this whole incident that she had to experience because of who she was and because of who he was. He was not homosexual. He did not claim to be homosexual, even though there was rumors going around Fort Campbell Base where he was stationed that because he was having this relationship with Calpurnia Adams, he was homosexual. He did not see himself as homosexual because of the fact that Calpurnia was in the process of becoming a full-fledged woman. Calpurnia saw it as a heterosexual relationship as well. Since 1999, the FBI has been tracking hate crime statistics across America. In California, as of, I believe this is 2010, California had 1,297 reported hate crimes. That's just what's reported. It's estimated that that number is actually double or triple the figures they have because a lot of people will not report it. But because of the progress that we've made, thanks to Matthew Shepard and Brandon Teena and Barry Winchell, more and more people are coming forward and fighting back and not taking it and reporting these incidents so that these people can no longer be out in the public and bully people. And this is just behind the bias based on different race, religion, sexual orientation, ethical and national orientation, and disability. Orientation right now is the third. Race is still the number one, but at the rate it's been going here lately, it's actually in the process of possibly taking over the number one spot of the largest percentage of hate crimes in the U.S. right now. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Carl.